Welcome. And thank you, Frank, for doing the Zoom hosting. And I want to thank all our translators, of course. And I need to remind my translators to give the sign when things get out of hand. You can please unmute and ask to slow down or give me the sign. Because I'm excited and it's hard to work in translation when I'm really excited. And the Yoga Sutra is far and away my favorite text. So I'm really excited to start the next round of teachings the Yoga Sutra. Um, I really believe it's one of the greatest texts ever written. And remember when Geshe Michael first started, he said, think about the fact that it's 2,000 years old. He's like, nothing, what else is 2,000 years old? There's just very few things. It's incredible for something to last that long. And he said it kind of indicates that there's something valuable in it. We wouldn't pass on things that are not valuable, like generation to generation to generation. Like, here's this book. Oh, that's amazing. Is it good? Nah, not really. But you should keep it and make sure you pass it to the next generation. Like nobody would do that. So the fact that something is 2,000 years old should give us some insight into, why would something last that long? And for me, it's the ideas are simple, they're powerful, they're super concise, and for me, the ideas are something I can integrate into my life. They're practical. Uh, there's something that the advice is, I feel, made me a better person. Uh, as a yoga teacher, for those that are yoga teachers, they're just these really cool ideas that we can integrate into a yoga class. But mostly, when I memorize the text, then I have the words of Patanjali the author Patanjali, in my mind and in my heart. And it's cool. I was thinking about, well, yeah, it's just beautiful ideas that I've found super helpful. And it's ideas that people that have studied ACI or studied DCI, you'll find so many of those ideas in this one text. But it's got its own flavor. And it has presents these ideas in this beautiful worldview of yoga. And this text shows us how vast yoga can be. Yoga philosophy is special. It's different. And those that have been studying with YSI, you can see how far and how fast you can go in yoga philosophy. It's this entry point into the higher teachings that is very seamless, that's very coherent. And, it's a path that allows us to incorporate aspects of the body and the mind. And so, I don't know, I know I'm biased. I know this is my favorite text. So I know I'm excited about it. And we're going to teach it in a new format. And I'm really excited to co-teach with Duoduo, who has joined us, and he'll teach a special class for Chinese-speaking students. And I want to thank Duoduo. We were just talking. We met over 10 years ago at Diamond Mountain, and I remembered, this is a text that we share a love for, and a text that we've studied a lot. And I don't know, it's just cool when someone else is as inspired by a text as me. So I wanted to introduce Dodo and ask if you could share like how you ran into the text, your study with it, why you think people should study it. And please remember you're being translated.
Okay. Thank you, Earl, for letting me do this with you. It's a great honor. You've always been a big brother, a great friend, and a really, really high teacher for me. So I'm grateful. So you're asking how did I come to contact with the text, right? So in the 2009, I was still in graduate school of acting, Shanghai Theatre Academy. So two mysterious teachers came to visit us, Xia Liang and John Bentham. For many people who don't know them, Xia Liang used to be the translator for Geshe Michael Roach. I mean, she was one of his best students. And John Bentham is also an amazing yoga teacher. So they came to our school and they offered to teach us yoga for free. I was like, whoa. I took the first asana class, and I was in a lot of trouble physically and mentally at the time, and I was lying down in Shavasana for the first time in my life. I was like, whoa, I can hear things. I can feel my breath. Whoa, the world is so clear to me. And I vaguely remember the first sequence they taught me was the old YSI Tonelin sequence, and it was awesome. We had no yoga mats. We were doing it on the floor. There was a small pool of sweat in front of me. I was stiff as hell, but I enjoyed it. It was one of the best yoga experience I've ever had. Then, second class began. I mean, I don't remember second or third class begin. They just took out this thing. They took out this thing. I was like, what are they trying to do? Aren't they just, posture teachers? And they started to talk about 1.2 Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha, talking about the big mistake our mind have turned things around and created our own sufferings. I remember I was sitting in the back. John Bentham and Xia Liang, they told me I was sitting in the back doing things like this. I was like judging, being critical. Then gradually, after I think a few days, I didn't only move to the front row of the class. I turned around, I verted. I turned around, I sat next to them and started to translate with them. It was an undescribable experience. They started my yoga journey in this life. And I always remember the very first verse of Yoga Sutra, and I was mesmerized. Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga is anti-intuition. You need to turn around. And in the years and after that, I always told my students when they taught me the verse, I feel like I had been trying to, bump my way through a wall for 20 years. I was bumping in darkness. I want to find a way out, bumping, bumping with my head. And suddenly they just appeared. They tapped me on my shoulder, and I turned around, and they were holding a big lamp and showing me there's no obstacle behind me. Turning 180 degree is the way out. So that's how I came to Yoga Sutra and the beginning of my yoga journey. And then, of course, I have to mention them. My main teachers, Jessica and Stefan. Then they took over. They took me around the world, asking me to translate with them, teaching me. In fact, they taught me all the 4 chapters of Yoga Sutras, not only once, and they taught me the basis of my basis of the Sanskrit language. The last part of the story was that I was never able to, because of my bad karmic seeds, I was never able to
I'm
fully
gonna, Duoduo, I'm
understand.
gonna ask you to slow down a little bit for
Yes,
translators.
sir. Because I always had obstacles in fully understand the second half of chapter 3 and the whole chapter 4, you know. But last year I had the great fortune to study with Geshe Michael Roach the last 2 chapters. I expected I was expecting that for 10 years. And I was like, whoa, I understood now. And I want to tell this little bit of the story is that's really important for me because a few months before, when I was finishing the last bit of my Yoga Sutra chapter 4 notes, okay, I literally cried. I finished that and I cried because of course Master Earl knows what the last verse is about, right? The last verse is about yoga. Eventually it says it is reached by those who dwells in their own true nature. And I finished the notes on the last one and I cried because it was a perfect callback for the beginning of my yoga journey. It was a perfect callback of the few verses that 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 you know that Yoga Sutra begins with. So that's my Sutra story. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks. That brings me back to a lot of great memories when Geshe Michael started teaching the Yoga Sutra in yoga studios. Nobody was doing that. It was in the Jivamukti studios in New York, and I'd never really seen or heard of anybody teaching these books in a yoga studio. And so yeah, it was, Geshe Michael had this idea. He did 3-year retreat and had this vision that yoga would change the world, and that was his entry point into starting this text. But, mm, I've been thinking about, why to study this, and I came across, I was leading a meditation class and joking sort of that, one of my greatest teachers is TikTok. Uh, and I think it is in a lot of ways. Uh, I learned so much on TikTok. And one of the stories I was hearing was this person says, if you have a glass of tea, if you have a glass of tea and someone bumps into you and you spill your tea, like, why did you spill your tea? And we want to say, well, someone bumped into me. I spilt my tea because someone bumped into me. And the person said, no, you spilt your tea because that was in your cup. If you'd had coffee in your cup, then when someone bumped into you, you would have spilled coffee. The thing that comes out of your cup is the thing that you put in your cup. And so, life will bump into us. We will get knocked around a little bit by life. And so when life kind of treats us a little rough, what do we want to spill out? Is it going to be patience? Is it going to be compassion? Is it going to be anger? Uh, or is it going to be Yoga Sutra? And so what what this opportunity, I think, is a chance to, fill our cup with something that when life bumps into us, that's what spills out. And there's so many in this text, so many little uh, they call it like an earring, like a jewel for the ear. I remember one time I was waiting for class to start. I don't know if you remember Duoduo, but it used to be that when Geshe Michael came to class, everyone would line up outside to give him a flower, and it started taking forever.
Yeah.
And at first, I thought it was kind of cool. Everyone gives a flower to the teacher, and it's a nice sign of respect. And then it just got kind of more and more and more. And it would take 20 minutes for him to walk into the class. And then he'd have all these flowers, and then we'd have to go find something to do with them. And we'd go into town and give them away, give them to the church or give them to the school. And I was like, what a waste of time. What a waste of money. We should be in class. We're wasting 20 minutes of Geshe Michael's time when he could be teaching us. So I was sitting there kind of grumpy at the start, waiting for class to start with a woman named Anipelma, who was instrumental in starting Three Jewels in New York. She did 2 3-year retreats. One of 2 students of Geshe Michael's that's done 2 3-year retreats. And I said, what do you do when you wait for class? Because she wasn't annoyed. She was a very happy person. And she said, I just sit here and I pray to get one jewel for my ear. Like, can I get one thing today that will change my life in some way, in some small way? And she just she just sat there and sets her motivation. Just want like a one thing to hear that will profoundly change my life, or simply change my life. And the Yoga Sutra is filled with those little jewels for our ear. The the first chapter has very profound teachings on karma, on emptiness. Um, there's verses on the 4 immeasurables. The first chapter is based on the 5 paths. So 5 paths that we need to progress along on the path to perfection, and how to even get onto those 5 paths. So the first chapter is this beautiful presentation that really, if we could understand the first chapter, it's all we need. And Patanjali, he writes the second chapter, and the main commentator, his name is Vyasa. He says the second chapter is just for the dumb people that didn't get the first chapter. Like the super smart people understand the first chapter, and that's all they need. And Patanjali wasn't going to waste those people's time. So the book isn't like the easy chapter, then the harder chapter, then the harder chapter, then the harder chapter. Um, Vyasa says chapter one is all you need, and the smart students will get everything they need from that chapter. Chapter two is probably the most famous chapter. It has the chapter on the 8 parts of yoga. So anyway, the the book just has a lot of beautiful, profound, simple advices that I think are jewels for our ears, and it's things that we can fill our cup with, and then things that we can carry with us in the day to open our heart, or to understand the world a little bit better, or to help us deal with what happens when life knocks into us. And so I wanted to share one verse. So Frank, if you can throw that PPT up, that would be great. And I'll have someone read it. Maybe Andres, when you see some Sanskrit, read it out, buddy. You get some time to warm up. The the verse is talking about, while we try to locate it, the verse is talking about instructions on the second path. So when we talk about 5 paths of yoga, um, the first one is just it's called the path of accumulation, and it's we enter that through renunciation, like giving up the idea that happiness will be found in the material world, in objects or objects of the senses. And we kind of have to be countercultural. We have to step out from what seems to be normally driving people in this world, trying to find happiness in in the sense objects. And yoga is like we have to get beyond that. We have to find our happiness in bringing happiness to others. And so the first path is predicated on renunciation, looking somewhere else for our happiness. On a higher level, you could say that first path is entered by bodhicitta, by wanting to eliminate not just, not just me being happy, but all beings. Frank, should I keep stalling? Okay, here we go. That's me. And next slide. That's Duoduo. Handsome young man. Next slide. Okay. Here you go. Andres, you're up.
श्रद्धा वीर्य स्मृति समाधि प्रज्ञा पूर्वक इतरशम
Nice.
iteration.
Yeah, really nice. We'll try it. Repeat after me. Shraddha,
Dha,
virya, smrti, samadhi, prajna, purvaka, itaresham. This time, try it by moving your lips and saying the words if you weren't. Just give it a go. Why not? No one can hear you. Ready? Shraddha, Virya, Smriti, Samadhi, Prajna, Purvaka, Iterasham. Shraddha, Virya, Smriti, Samadhi, Prajna, Purvaka, Iterasham. So these are 5 ideas or 5 methods that we use to travel along the second path. One could make a good argument you need this on the first path and to get on the first path. There's a beautiful presentation by one of our staff teachers, Michael Johnson, and he relates each of these 5 to the 5 paths itself. So belief or faith relates to the first path. Effort relates to the second path. And when we do the course in depth, I'll present it like that. It's really cool. In the way Geshe Michael presented it, these are 5 aspects that allow us to travel on the second path of preparation. So the path of preparation is the practices that bring us to that state of seeing emptiness directly. Burnett, how am I doing? Thumbs up. Anastasia? Liars. One day a translator will be honest. Who is it? There's one. I'll try to slow down a little. So Geshe Michael, he studied this book in 3 retreat extensively, translated it from 3 retreat, in 3 retreat. And that was a huge, huge focus of his 3 retreat was the yoga text. It's the only text that he translated for 3 years was yoga text that I know of. And the books that he wrote in 3-year retreat were all yoga related. And he had this vision that yoga would be this avenue that to teach people, and that it would become a massive movement in the world. You know, at that time, I had never seen a yoga mat. There wasn't a Starbucks and a yoga studio on every corner. It was really rare still. And so he had this vision that yoga would change the world. And so then when I went into my 3-year retreat, Geshe Michael said, focus on one thing. Don't study 10 things. Study one. Focus on one thing. Like dig one hole 1,000 feet deep. Don't dig 1,000 holes 1 foot deep. And we had just studied for 7 years in depth a bunch of Tibetan texts. And he said, study the Yoga Sutra. We agreed that would be the text I'd study. And so it was the one book I really sunk my mind into. I memorized it. I fell in love with it. And let that kind of guide my retreat in a lot of ways. And retreat was hard. I was reflecting on retreat. It was at the same time the most beautiful and maybe the hardest thing I've done in my life. And Geshe Michael would come in twice a year, maybe once a year, twice a year. And I'd get 10 minutes. Everyone got 10 minutes of his time. And so I generally used my time complaining about my meditation or something. And he actually, that's not true. Usually, I had very little questions for him. I felt like he had taught me everything I needed to know. And he'd come in and I would maybe ask a question and he'd give me an answer, and then we'd have 7 minutes left. And he'd show me pictures of his garden, and he would kind of break the rules and tell me about, different things going on outside a retreat. And it was very beautiful moments to share with him, when really I've just felt so complete in what he had taught. But I do remember one time feeling frustrated and asking for advice. And he gave me 2 pieces of advice. The first one, he looked at me and kind of like thought for a second. And I was really ready for like my profound instruction. Like, I was really excited. I was like, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to get like, the advice that's really going to change my retreat and change my life. Because I was really sincere. Like, Geshe Michael, I really want to see emptiness directly. Like, give me the one piece of advice. Like, I'm frustrated. I need to see emptiness directly. What should I do? And he stops and thinks. And Frank, if you can show the next picture. He said, he reminded me of one of his teachers. His name was Song Rinpoche. Great, great teacher. He was the teacher of Geshe Michael's teacher. You got that image, Frank?
Sorry, Frank lost connection.
Oh no, that's a problem. Let me see if I can show it. My big reveal.
Sorry, Frank. Frank lost connection. Can you share, Earl?
Yeah, give me a second.
I'm trying to share too.
I'm back.
Oh, that's great. Good timing. Can you
Yeah.
share the next image?
Yes. Hey, there you go.
All of that waiting is how I was expecting something profound. And he said, grow a mustache. He said, I think you should grow a mustache like Song Rinpoche. Song Rinpoche had this really long mustache. And he said, be a yogi, grow a mustache like Song Rinpoche. Which I thought was great advice. I was so happy to hear that. And so that's what I did. And the second thing he said was, keep going. Don't stop. Just keep going. And so I did. I had a lot of faith. Let's get off that slide and go to the next slide. Shraddha, the first word. Shraddha is belief or faith. And it's the first of the 5 powers. And so to really succeed at something, you have to have faith. We have to have faith we can accomplish the goal. And when there's a teacher who has been there, or a teacher who believes in us, that can really help. So it just, again, is so important to have a community around us. It's one of the things I'm looking forward to about this course, is to bring together a community of people that want to go on a journey of the Yoga Sutra, and to be excited about that text, to have some experience of that text, and then that helps us all feed off that energy that we can achieve our goals. So the first of the 5 powers is faith or belief, and it leads to the second. The second is virya. Say virya. Virya. Faith isn't enough. Belief isn't enough. We can't just wish ourselves to the end of the goal. We need effort. If I want to learn to play guitar, I need to practice. If I want to be more compassionate, I need to practice compassion. If I want to see emptiness directly, I need to study emptiness. And specifically it's not just effort. Geshe Michael said you can put a lot of effort into mowing the lawn, or washing the car, or painting the house. That's not virya. It's not hard work. That's not the meaning. It's joyful effort. It's being happy happy in the practices. It's being happy to struggle through the hard times, because we have that belief, we have that faith in the goal. It's being happy when there's some disturbances in life, things get divisive, or things get challenging, or can we maintain that joyfulness during hard times, and continue to do what's right, continue to act with integrity, continue to act with love, and to continue to act with joy. And I can persevere, but definitely, I can get beat down by life, and that joy can be really hard. And I want to be like there's some people on this call that when they walk in a room, the room just gets better. The joyfulness the room becomes more joyful by their presence. And that's such a beautiful, beautiful quality to see in somebody and to have. And to have those people in our lives, it's really special. There's many people in my life that are like that, but there's a teacher at Three Jewels named Hector that I think is like that. He's just a very joyful being, and it gives faith in the practice. It gives us faith that, oh, this person looks like they're practicing and they're happy. I've seen Geshe Michael, I've watched him for decades. And he's the most joyful person I've ever met. And that gives me faith in the thing that he teaches. You know? And so so that's the second power on our path to seeing emptiness directly, is to find that joy. And also because if our practice isn't joyful, it's so hard. Who wants to do something they don't like? I hate meditating. Guess I'll go meditate. It's just it's too uphill a battle if we just hate what we do, but we feel like we have to do it. So, you know, in our path, we can find that joy in community, or by examples, or by the practices in this book. You know, there's really great instructions in how to overcome the obstacles. And I think this idea of joy is one of them. We had a little rough part of 3-year retreat where you know, someone that had left retreat, we found out that he had died. It was a very traumatic time for a lot of people, and the mood in retreat was a little heavy. And so John Brady and I made a plan for what to do, and we ordered in, like, I don't know, like 200 golf balls and golf clubs, and we went to the Lama Dome, to the highest peak at Diamond Mountain during 3-year retreat, and we invited anyone that wanted to go. And we just started hitting golf balls all through retreat. And it's the highest point. It looks down at the retreat. And the laughter just kind of echoed through the valley. And that was what dispelled that darkness, was laughter and joy and community. And it's the I think the best antidote for dark times. And so, and it's a very hard thing to practice. How do we practice being happy? How do we practice being joyful? It's not easy. One of the ways is the third power. If you want to put that slide back up for a sec, Frank. The third power is smriti. So it means memory or remembering. And it's remembering that joy, or remembering that goal, or remembering why we have faith in that goal. So we can set our sights on a vision. We can set our sights on a goal. But then 2 days later or 2 hours later, you know, we can get caught up in any one of a billion thoughts. And so, you know, I can try to think, okay, today my goal is to be joyful. But then I have to remember that throughout the day. And that's smriti. Like, oh yeah, why am I studying this Yoga Sutra thing? It's like 3 weeks in, and all of my time is 3 days a week dedicated to this. Why am I? Oh yeah, I want to see emptiness. I want to work on compassion. I want to work on joy. Those things don't manifest on their own. I don't want to have an afflicted mind anymore. and afflictions will not disappear on their own. No way. They'll proliferate. And so smriti is remembering that goal. Other people seem to use the Yoga Sutra, and when I bump into them, they just spill out Yoga Sutra. They spill out kindness. I want to study this. So smriti is keeping that focus, keeping our eye on the goal, having a steady, consistent practice. And it's easy to be distracted. And I don't mean for an hour or a day. I mean for a week or a month or a year. And we can look back and be like, oh, I remember when keeping my book was really important. I remember years ago, that was such a cool thing I used to do. You know, years we can be distracted. And so smriti is, you know, the thing that we try to keep day to day so that we don't look back and be like, oh yeah, the book, yeah, cool. I remember doing that years ago. So smriti has this idea of coming back to the object. We remember the object. My object is kindness or joy or spread or love or whatever our object is in our off the cushion meditation or the object in meditation. And then we get distracted. We lose that object. And then we remember the object. Oh yeah, I was supposed to be meditating on breath. I remember. Oh yeah, I wanted to focus on not criticizing people today. And I just criticized someone. I remember what I'm supposed to be doing. The second part of smriti, though, is holding that object in meditation. We haven't lost it yet. So we're in a constant state of remembering because we haven't lost the object. You see, so there's a more subtle idea of what smriti is. If I have my mind on my meditation object, I'm in a constant state of remembering it. That's another way that that's the other connotation of this idea of smriti. We remember the object when we completely lose it. But we do that, and then we come back, and then we come back, and then we come back till we get to a state of being in a constant state of remembering. And when we can do that, like when we can be more proficient in holding on to that love in our heart or that kindness in our heart more throughout the day, that's going to lead us to the fourth power, which is meditation. So meditation or samadhi, if you want to put the slide back up, Frank, if we have it still, that'd be great. Is samadhi meditation. Samadhi meditation comes from a good yoga practice. It's the result. So all our work with the channels and the winds, all of our work on the yoga mat, breathing practices, all our work trying to remember being kind when when people are bumping into us. All of that results in all of our efforts in pure morality or in morality. That's the thing that brings us to a state of meditation. I remembered a teaching of Geshe Michael a couple of days ago. He said that one of the causes of meditation is contentment. That we can't have good meditation if we're not content. And so again, we can see the link between that joy, that joyful effort, and meditation. If we can't be content in the moment, we can't be in a state of meditation. Meaning, if there's no contentment, being right here, right now, we're probably worrying about thinking about the past, worrying about the future. There's a lack of contentment that prevents us from being here now, simply meditating on our object. And so these ideas, they flow into the capacity for meditation. And then that meditation is what allows us to have better smriti, allows us to remember throughout the day. It allows us to, remember our belief or our faith or our core values. Like, what is it that I really believe in for me in this life? Like, what is life about for me? And then trying every day to kind of keep true to that faith, keep true to that belief about who we want to be, what our really big goals are, and walking through life with integrity. So the meditation flows back into that. And then ultimately it serves as a platform for the fifth, with this prajna. And prajna is wisdom. It's understanding emptiness. So it's again a result of the other four powers. And it's the one thing that allows us to eliminate our negative thoughts forever. Like, we can temporarily stop them. We can control them a bit. But if the goal is to eliminate negative thoughts, unhappy states of mind, according to yoga and all spiritual systems that come out of India, to eliminate those negative states of mind, we have to see the nature of reality. Because the afflictions are based in a lie. They're based in something that's not true. And wisdom is truth. Understanding emptiness is truth. And those two things can't coexist. Sometimes it feels like they can. Like, I feel like I can be afflicted thinking about emptiness, but real wisdom and real ignorance cannot coexist. And we can't get rid of those negative states of mind without wisdom. The affliction is based in a lie. And until we eliminate that lie, those afflictions will always be there. Those two can't be together. Wisdom must win. And there's no other way. Wisdom wins. We can't have affliction with wisdom. And ultimately, that's why we study this text. And that's what we fill our cup with. That's what we want to spill out when life bumps into us. Is this is wisdom. So this verse starts with the other ones. Who's the other ones? The other ones is us. It's the people that, as Duoduo was saying, trying to stop how the mind is turning things around. That's us. It's the ones that are trying to do something about the unpleasant states of mind. It's the people that are trying to overcome the lie with truth. We are the other ones that are trying to do that, as opposed to people that haven't been so lucky to have come into the teachings and maybe have a harder time fighting those afflictions and doing so in a way that perpetuates them. And so that's the goal of this text. We are the other ones. We're the ones trying to do it different and use wisdom to overcome afflictions. So that's one of the cool verses in this text. In the first chapter, there's another 50 that we'll go through. And if you want to put up the QR code, Frank. It's my last slide without the QR code. Here comes the QR code. If the idea of getting rid of your affliction sounds interesting, if the idea of studying the Yoga Sutra sounds interesting, we'll start the course April 27th, 29th. We'll do a class on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So there'll be a lecture Monday and Thursday. And then we'll have time for discussion and questions on Wednesday. And this will be the first in the series. We'll do all 4 chapters. And that's it. If you want to really learn the Yoga Sutra, there's not a lot of places where we can study it this in depth. There's many great books. There's people that teach it. But to go through chapter by chapter, 20, 30 hours per chapter, that's what it takes to master this text. And after this course, you will understand this text better than anybody. You'll understand this text better than 99% of the people that run into it. You will go to yoga teacher trainings and hear people teach this text and be like, oh, they really often, you just see that they haven't been blessed with the opportunity to study it that deeply. People study this for 2-3 hours in a yoga teacher training, and it's just simply not enough. It's a text you can have for a lifetime and just constantly dig deeper and deeper into. I'm out of time. If you have any questions, you can always reach out. If you are a Chinese speaking person, Duoduo is going to talk about the other aspect of the course that he's going to run, the more advanced part. It'll be a very special opportunity for people to study in Chinese language, in their own language, with someone that has spent a ton of time really trying to find the right words in the Chinese language, who spent a lifetime with this text, a shorter lifetime than my lifetime, but a lifetime nonetheless, and has immersed himself in yoga. In addition, well, because he has injured his knee, we'll have other people teaching the yoga as part of that program. And thank you for those people that are stepping up to step in and to share their wisdom in yoga. And he'll talk about that course. If you don't know Chinese language, but you want to hang on the call for 15 minutes and just hang out with Duoduo, you are more than welcome. Otherwise, for the non-Chinese speakers, I really appreciate your time and your interest, and I really look forward to taking this journey of the Yoga Sutras with you. Cool.
Thank you, Earl. Great teaching.